This lecture is about cohesion. Making your text cohesive means creating connectedness between the several parts of your text, your words, your sentences, your paragraphs. These connections help the reader to understand the text as a whole, a united whole, a message, one message. To achieve this, there are several tools and I will demonstrate them in this lecture. First, though, we need to distinguish cohesion from coherence. Coherence is about the deep structure of the text, the content. If your message is coherent, the constituent parts are logically linked. Cohesion refers to the textual links that express these connections and relations. Now, this may sound a bit abstract. Let's turn to an example. Take a minute to digest these two sentences. Well, whether you've been drinking or not, this piece of text does not make sense. The logical link is unclear. So, coherence of this text is 0. What about this one? Well, I'll give you a minute. Well, now we are talking. These statements are well connected on the level of the substance. The question is, how does the text tell you so? Probably these signals did the trick. The repetition of effects and the relatedness of immediate and in the long term. Now, the author might have made it even more clear by using the short-term effects instead of immediate effects. But okay, well, this is clear enough. Now think a minute about what word the author might have added as an explicit linking word. Well, I guess the word however may have popped up in your mind, or on the contrary, or maybe another linking word. So now we are on the surface structure, the cement that sticks the blocks together. Using smart tools of cohesion, your text becomes a real building to enter, giving room to several spaces instead of a big pile of loosely connected blocks or rocks of information. Now let's take a look at the textual tools that we can employ on this surface level. First, we have keywords. Keywords are like red threads in your text. The repetition of keywords tells the reader what the topic of this particular part of text really is. This can be a section, one paragraph, or several connected paragraphs. Now, reference words are tiny grammar words that refer to previous words, clauses, or entire sentences. Often, it is up to the reader to establish what they really refer to, and I think you will recognize this may be a problem for the reader. If this link is not immediately clear, then the author should repair the link. He can do this by referring nouns, by using referring nouns. They can be very helpful here. They repeat or label the content that is referred to, supporting the reader and thereby strengthening the connection. Some examples of referring nouns will follow in a minute. And then there are transitional words or phrases or linking words. These words explicitly articulate the relation between words or sentences. Now, often you have a choice here. You can say either, I cannot make it, I am sick, or you can say, I cannot make it because I am sick. So the choice of putting in a transitional word is often a choice for the author. Now, let's go to the real world of the text. Pause the video and search this slide for the tools of cohesion. Do you see repetition of keywords? Do you recognize referring words or referring nouns? And what about the transitional words? Take your time, pause the video. Here they come. First, the keyword repetition. We can see the keyword Utah, the unconscious thought advantage, a psychological concept, several times in this paragraph. It's the red thread. This slide shows the reference words and the referring nouns. This result, the effect, nouns that refer to concepts that have been discussed before, just in the sentences before. Or these opposing views, a very nice referring phrase for the previous explained issue. And some smaller reference words like that and which. Grammar glue, so to say. But very important to check for the connectedness, the clarity and the pointedness. Well, and here is the check for transitional words and phrases in the same paragraph. We see although, consequently, notably, and also. Words that express the relation between sentences and support logical flow. Okay, now, wrapping this up, we can see that the cohesion of this text is achieved with the use of several tools. So, you need them all. Now, we will discuss some textual examples of how you can employ these tools to enhance cohesion. And also, I want to warn you, give you some warnings. First, repeat your keywords if the previous sentence has considerable length. Read with me. Signals that confer localization to blah, 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 blah. Now, if the next sentence picks up the keyword again, repeat it. Don't leave it just implied like in one common feature is. If the distance to the keyword is too great, it's very hard for the reader to pick it up again. So better write, one common feature of these signals is that never vary your keywords. Varying keywords can be very confusing. Vary your transitional words, yes. Vary your sentence length. Vary your sentence structures. We will come to all that, but never vary your keywords. The disease you are writing about, the treatment you are testing, the tissue that is being worked on, name them, stick to that name. So if you start out with sepsis syndrome, don't switch to septicemia later on. It will just slow down your reader. It's confusing. And look at this example. Articles are labeled papers further on. Titles are first titles and then they are labeled headers, which is, well, quite confusing. Here I would propose just the following. Start out with scientific papers, because that's what the study has been focusing on, and leave the scientific out the second time. Repeat titles, or leave the repeating phrase entirely out. Scientific papers with shorter titles tend to get cited more often. Clear enough? Well, of course, if you want to put more emphasis on the longer titles, you should keep them. Use referring nouns if your single reference word is too shallow. This has been investigated by. Try it out. Maybe it's more clear to put in this issue has been investigated by. Or because it complicates the process, replace it by because this unresolved problem complicates the process. It helps the reader. Often you can choose also the shape of your referring noun. You can make it a labeling noun or a restating noun, as in this example, procedure, labeling, or restating, the removal of fat. Okay, finally, we also have transitional words and phrases. You can find a big list of them as a PDF in resources in this activity. I've just pasted a small part of this PDF to show you the variety of choice you really have here. let's look at the category to compare and contrast. Now here's your opportunity to find alternatives for the many howevers in your text. Alternatives that perhaps express a more subtle or lighter version of the link, however, the contradiction, however. Why not try on the other hand, or despite this, or and yet, in contrast to, all with their own tone and flavor. Because, well, I have to say, these three are absolutely in the top 3 of overused linking words. So boring, don't you think? Also, sometimes I stumble upon texts like these, a repetition of moreovers and furthermores, like in this paragraph. They do not really present a clear or sound reasoning. The ideas are just listed, they are summed up, but that's all there is. Does not help the reader to really digest this message. Just some more important points about the use of however. However, in the introduction often signals the gap of knowledge. So it is smart to use it for that purpose as a signal. But preferably, don't use more howevers in the introduction. Just try to find other linking words if you really need to address another contradiction. If you want to lower the emphasis, consider using however in mid-sentence. This procedure, comma, however, comma, is very costly. Also, avoid the use of however as a paragraph starter. The prior paragraph has made a statement, and the second continues with, however, blah, blah, blah. Now the reader has to go back to find the idea that is contradicted here. Better do it this way. Close off with the however sentence. That way the however sentence is closely linked to the former statement. Then start up a new paragraph. Start up with a referring noun that labels the issue. Here it is this lack of knowledge. So you've built a nice bridge here from one paragraph to the other. 2 more examples of bridges. Instead of despite this, we believe our findings, you can put in this lack of agreement, or considering the consequences of these risks. Well, clear enough, I think. Well, I bet you cannot wait to start checking your own drafts for the effectiveness of the cohesive tools you've been using. If you need any reader's feedback on specific sentences or paragraphs, just post your question in the learning environment. I will be very happy to look into your work.